in the last couple of weeks, we've had the question or the term come up and have been asked, what exactly is seller financing? So this is something that is probably going to become more commonplace over the next year and a half. And we're going to see this for a few reasons. But before we talk about the advantages and disadvantages of seller financing, let's break it down as to what seller financing is. So seller financing has a few terms, but probably the two most common would be seller financing, owner financing. And this is basically where the seller is acting as the mortgagor in place of the bank or the financial institution. So there's some key points to remember. The purchaser will have a down payment. Typically, we've seen cases where they have a down payment, but they may not have the ability to be in a position at the current time to qualify for a mortgage. Therefore, the seller will act as the bank, as we've kind of alluded to. The purchaser makes the payments to the seller for specified the amount, which is the principal and the interest, and they also define the term. This is exactly or almost identical to having a conventional or a straightforward mortgage with one of your lending institutions, except your seller is the mortgagor. And then the term. So, but it is important to remember that the taxes are paid by the purchaser to the municipality in which they are living. So, and then the term is also defined. So this is something where it could be a 2-year term in which the purchaser needs to put a mortgage on the property. It could be 5 years. It could be an indefinite term. So again, that's something that is negotiated out as you're discussing everything from the purchase price to the contents to the possession date. And it's important to remember that in addition to the purchaser paying the property taxes, that the title is then transferred into their name with the note that the seller, to protect themselves, will put a caveat on title. So what are the benefits and disadvantages? So let's talk about the seller benefit. Typically in a market like right now where it is a buyer's market, they have the opportunity to command a little bit higher purchase price. Not always the case, but sometimes with less condition or more conditions that you may have to purchase something, there is a little bit offset an advantage to the opposite party. He may prefer to defer some of his taxes that he may have to pay. The payout terms, as opposed to one lump sum, he may wish to have the payout over 2 or 3 years. And again, that's usually a reflection on having lower taxes to pay out. These situations are really favorable when you find somebody that's an investor and they're looking to offset their taxes. And then as well, they'll typically, for the duration of the term of the loan, the seller can command typically a higher interest rate. So again, that's something that's predetermined. For the buyer, where's the advantages there? Well, straight off the bat, if they can't qualify for a mortgage, or perhaps maybe they're going through a divorce or some sort of situation where there's an equitable split happening and they don't have the full finances available, or they're not in the position that they can obtain the mortgage today, but in a year or 2 years' time, they have that probability, but they see that there's an advantage to getting into the marketplace today, then this is a very favorable situation for them to act on seller financing. Other options that are favorable, renovations. Perhaps maybe you strike a deal with the seller. You've got the opportunity to go in, renovate the property, heighten the value of the home, and therefore you'll have higher equity in the property, and then you may have the capability to go in, obtain a mortgage for a lot less than what you would have initially required. It's a lot easier, and the interest rate's a heck of a lot lower than going to a secondary lender for this procedure. And then the third is as I've referenced briefly there, that you may be anticipating that the property values are set to go up today, but you're not may not be in a position to obtain a mortgage, but you know that you want to get into the market, so this is more favorable. And yeah, you're securing your future into financial freedom there. So how does this differ from rent to own? Well, that's going to be our next segment. We're already over 5 minutes here, so stay tuned and let us know if you want a direct link for that. If you have any further questions, again, 403-809-3523. Enjoy the rest of the week. Cheers.